All right, hello. So this is I think this is good. I think this is a good practice to review your comments, at least while I can afford to, right? Because there might be so many comments that I can't react to all of them. But I've not looked at this before, so this is my unadulterated, unprepared response, and I think it's good. I think it's good to engage with criticism and see what people have to say. And I understand a lot of people like Jordan Peterson. So maybe my video is a little provocative on purpose, but I think people need to challenge the things that seem easy, because it seems easy to like someone like Peterson. He's preaching responsibility. He's preaching be a decent human being. Concern yourself with others. Have goals. It's all very nice, and it's very easy and basic, but it's kind of in those distinctions. It's kind of in those little kind of hidden truths where we point out the difference between someone like Jordan Peterson and someone who's actually right-wing, someone who's actually Christian. Those kind of little distinctions mean a lot, and that's why I focus on them. Because it's easy for everyone to make fun of a trans person or make fun of like an LGBTQ person, but just because we all pick on them, it doesn't really tell me anything about you. You could be a Ben Shapiro, you could be a far-right nationalist, you could be a freaky Nazi, you could be some spooky neocon, you could be all kinds of shit. You could be a centrist, you could be Joe Rogan, right? So it's important, I think, to categorize some of the people on the right, because some of them are just subversive liberals, classical liberals, who are like trying to push for centrism, and they love gay marriage, and they love, the degeneracy, and they love all of it. And then there's other people who are like extremists, and they just want to like kill everybody, right? And then there's other people who are like actually Christian. And you kind of see this reflected in the fact that everyone's throwing around the word based. I was like, oh, I'm based. I'm trad. I'm based. But that word's lost all its meaning, because now every single person who's slightly right-wing, who slightly dislikes gay people, is suddenly more based, right? So it's kind of annoying. But anyway, let's get into this comment. Now, who's this comment from? I guess it doesn't really matter. You guys are all anonymous. So we got a Logan Watson here. He's saying, and people shouldn't need an old boomer man to tell them basic things their dad should have already told them. The problem with that is that there are a lot of people who grow up without a father, and even if you grow up with both parents, that doesn't mean that both or either of your parents are good or insightful or intelligent. That's true. I can speak from personal experience. Peterson's advice fills a gap for millions and millions of people. Maybe you grow up with parents who already told you the things that Peterson says, so you find his teachings to be redundant and trite. That is also true. If so, then that's great for you, but you'd be in the minority. So when I pick on Jordan Peterson for saying basic things, I'm picking on some things. One is people need to understand that Peterson isn't this profound intellectual. Not really. If you actually look at what the advice he's giving, he's approaching these basic conservative facts from a liberal lens. So to him, it seems like this sophisticated finding, but it's only sophisticated, and it's this big enlightening, like, whoa, I figured out some basic conservative tenet, like being responsible is good, because he's approaching it from a completely foreign lens, which is the liberal academic, social psychologist, soft science lens. So people need to understand how to categorize Peterson and the things he's saying. And then the next thing I'd say is people need to level up. Like, once you're doing red pill basic stuff, you should evolve past someone like Peterson. Like, I found Andrew Tate to be a decent role model for a tiny bit. And then I'm like, this guy's actually just a gay Romanian who texts guys on keyboards pretending to be a girl, right? For his webcam business. So then I kind of evolved and leveled up. And people need to, yeah, I'll agree, he's like a good level 1, like, do responsible stuff. That's fine. But then you need to level up. You need to get some actual principles and values and carve out an identity beyond basic psychological facts that Peterson brings to the table, right? You need to level up kind of past that. So I'm holding people to a higher expectation, and I'm saying people need to be better. It's not enough that you're responsible. It's not enough that you do these things. We need people to kind of bring back a moral compass. We need people to actually get some moral principles. I think people need to return to Christianity and start to bring genuine masculinity back to our churches, and so they're not run by these feminist gay people, which has been infiltrated by like CIA programs and shit like that in Vatican II. Fuck, what's the name of that? It's Gladios, Project Gladios. Operation Gladio. Nope, was it Gladios? I think it was Operation Gladio. Fuck, am I crazy? Yes. So Operation Gladio involves NATO and the CIA. During the Cold War era, they kind of infiltrated a lot of organizations to make sure they were quote-unquote anti-communist. But a lot of that involved CIA infiltration of things like the church through Vatican II. And, well, earlier than Vatican II as well. But what I'm saying is that we need some better values. We need men to actually become masculine and then bring that masculinity back into the church, I think, and then get rid of feminism, get rid of all this bullshit, and bring some moral backbone. So I'm saying it's not enough. I am holding people to a high expectation, but I think a lot of you guys are smart. I think there's a lot of smart people on the internet. So don't fall into these easy traps of just ingesting shit like Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson because they're attacking gay people, right? It's fun to be like, oh, look at this guy. He's picking on trans people. He's picking on gay people. He's picking on liberals. He's picking on Democrats. Oh, I like that guy. But that's just easy bait to get you to watch their shekel content, right? Like Jordan Peterson himself has said, I'm a greedy capitalist. I'm doing this for money. He's joining the Jewish Daily Wire. So he's not principled. He's not selling you something of actual substance. And that kind of matters. That does matter because anybody can just say, I care about responsibility. I care about being a good person. But then you actually look at who they are. You look at their background. You dig into their actual belief system. And then you realize that, oh, you are actually an atheist and you don't really even believe in anything above like nihilism or like evolutionary biology. So for you, what does good mean? What does responsible mean? And the the process that you instill into your audience, like for how to do that matters too, because the foundation that you use for your advice is important. And if you're a Christian, you should look for a Christian foundation to your advice, something that's based in like universal value of the human spirit. Like every individual human has value. That thing matters, and it underpins and undergirds these kind of easy normative statements like everyone needs to be responsible. Because that's someone we can all agree to. Yeah, everyone should be responsible. Yeah, everyone should pursue meaning. Yeah, everyone should have goals and purpose. But how you do that, and then the stuff that comes after that Jordan Peterson says and people like Jordan Peterson say, that matters. And then it's not really enough to just tell people to say, oh, just be responsible, do all these things. You need to have a solid foundation. And I don't think Jordan Peterson is actually that principled. And that's more my critique with him. And I understand that a lot of people are lost, but I think that's more a fault of people, and it's a fault of the culture that people don't have stable parents and don't have good advice. And I think you should feel a little embarrassed or a little bit behind if you have to rely on someone like Peterson. And I wouldn't defend him as this like intellectual, super profound, super great prophet. He's just a social scientist who chanced across conservatism and a lot of things that conservatives say by being intellectually honest and by actually approaching it with an open mind. Okay, so let's go down to your second paragraph. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. This is a kind of weak statement, guys. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. What does that mean? Sure, everyone can have their own opinion. It doesn't make it right. You don't have to like the guy or even agree with the things he's... Okay, and this is the other problem with Peterson, is that he has a massive audience. So if people like Peterson say, Nick Fuentes is a horrible person, you should all hate him, and he's an evil neo-Nazi. So the problem with people like Peterson is they gain all this credibility from being this super profound father figure that everyone loves and cries to on camera. And then when he says things like, so it gains him like a sense of trust and credibility when he's really just saying basic things, that when he actually makes moves that are based on principles, like we're going to oppose climate change, we're going to oppose the vaccine, we're going to yell at fat Vogue magazine models, we're going to bitch about Twitter canceling us. And when he starts to actually make prescriptions on foundational stuff, like we should ban anti-Semitism, we should take away free speech from people, then he has a massive audience of people who all support him and think he represents the right wing. So it tricks his audience into going after and upholding his positions, which are not principled, And then it tricks people at large who maybe aren't Jordan Peterson fans. They look at what someone like Jordan Peterson is doing and they go, oh, he's right wing. And he's saying ban all anti-Semites and people who have anonymous accounts. That's the right wing position. So then now the right wing position gets conflated with all these classical liberals who are pushing stupid nonsense, right? So that's really the problem. It's kind of like a subversion of the position that he appears to represent that he doesn't actually represent, right? But I think you've misjudged and mischaracterized him. I mean, that's fair. You can think that. It's not like he's some charlatan or grifter. I think he is a grifter. I think that's something he's literally said openly he's just a greedy capitalist. He's admitted it openly. He's working for, the Jewish Daily Wire. He makes all these books. He's going on these talk shows constantly, right? So I think he is, just in many ways. He has a huge ego. He likes people looking up to him and worshiping him, and he loves the money. I think he said that multiple times, so I would go find that. He's been professing the same thing for decades. What really does Peterson profess? Really what? He hasn't been professing free speech for decades. He built his whole enterprise off of opposing this gender pronoun bill, right? Remember in 2015, 2016, the whole Kathy Newman interview? That was his whole thing that he said decades ago. And then he suddenly wants to ban all anonymous accounts and get rid of anti-Semitism because it's mean, because poor Jews or whatever, ooh, and they cries on camera. So he's not principled. So I don't think that's really true. But if you think there's something that he says that is worth something that he's been preaching for decades, go ahead. I don't think you explicated it. You didn't say what it was. You just said he's been professing the same thing for decades. Well, you didn't say what he's been professing. I think you'd be hard-pressed to point out a real example of him giving bad advice or leading people astray. So, yeah, I don't think he has, he's never given advice that's, dog shit, right? But most of his advice is very, vague, and it's very normative. It's you should have a goal. You should have purpose and meaning. And actually, his advice around dating and his advice around women and, when you do an interview, shake your hand firmly, firm handshake and shoulders back. It's that's not bad advice, but it's kind of bad advice because it makes people think that they can get a job if they just, if they present themselves well, where it's no, actually you need to be qualified. You need to be competent, and then the confidence will follow. So that's an example of bad advice. I believe the effect that he has had on the world has been a net positive. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's say what the things he's done that are good is he's taken disenfranchised men with nothing who just do a bunch of drugs and have absolutely no clue what to do with their life and have no principles and have nothing. Then he brings them back and do something of a stoic, something of a stoic, responsible individual. So he's good for those people. But then all the other stuff he does is not good, I would say. His political stance or personal stance or where he falls on the spectrum of liberal to conservative or anything else about him shouldn't matter to anyone. I disagree. I think these things are foundational to opinions, and he's leading people down political or certain foundational rabbit holes, like becoming classical liberals. That's the problem, right? Is if you listen to someone like Peterson, you will start and you worship him and respect him for his normative stuff, then you're going to slowly adopt his foundations, which is classical liberalism, and ultimately it's nihilism. There's no purpose, there's no God. We just do things because we're biological creatures. And then what he teaches is largely just general life advice that is beneficial to anyone. So let's say he is just a life advice person, then he should stop marketing himself like this fucking genius guru of the internet. He's this super high IQ genius. Is oh my gosh, wow, he's so smart. And most people look at the way he phrases things and the way he gesticulates with his hands. He throws his hands up in the air and the way he dresses in his little suit. And they think because the way he presents himself, they think he's uncovering some deep intellectual truth. But there's some good examples where you put Jordan Peterson next to an actual biologist or an actual scientist, and he just looks like a rambling idiot. He doesn't really know what he's doing. Most of what Jordan Peterson is actually doing, if he's not offering general life advice, is he's postulating these random theories. he's like, well, I saw this, and we know in the social sciences that if you do this, then this happens, and that's really profound because we also know that. So it's like him like talking about these random. It's really just him like spitballing random theories. Like that interview I did, it was literally just him talking about God and how God is like the zenith of humanity's goals and aspirations, which is just some random bullshit theory he pulled out of his ass, right? Like that's not true. That's just a way to frame things, which is really dumb as an atheist, I would say too. But so anyway, thank you for writing your comments. I think it was decent, and I'm holding people to a higher standard is how I would end this off and frame it. I think you need someone who's more morally principled. You need better role models. Once you get past the point of needing life advice for like how to not be a degenerate drug addict like loser, and there's lots of people in that space. Don't get me wrong, you're right, there are millions of people who are completely lost, but people like Peterson are capitalizing, and it's the same as Andrew Tate. He's really the exact same. They're capitalizing off of how fucked men are right now, how absolutely fucked over and lost and brain dead and stupid the average person is. And I'm not saying that like to offend people per se. I'm just saying poor people that they have to rely on someone like Andrew Tate, poor men that they need people like Andrew Tate or Peterson to tell them basic things. I feel bad for them. Their fathers failed them. But now if you're kind of leveling up, you shouldn't be around defending Jordan Peterson when he's crying on fucking camera, when he's raising single mother daughters, when he's doing benzos and he doesn't have his own life put together and he's going to tell you how to live his life. You should hold yourself to a higher standard. When he's defending feminism and he's defending women and he's attacking MGTOWs, calling them pathetic weasels, then we need to, okay, this guy's just a doddering old man a little bit. We need to kind of not treat him as the Kwisatz Haderach, the perfect genius of the world, right? Like we need to put him in his place a little bit, because he will start trampling over the things that actually are important if you give him too much of an audience. So with that, guys, I think this has been substantiated because there's a lot of times where Peterson attacks the wrong group, like MGTOWs, or he attacks the random Vogue magazine model, or he goes after random groups in these like angry Twitter posts, and then he gets all this backlash because he's not principled in the same way that like a Christian or like someone like Fuentes is, where they know exactly where they stand and they only make critiques or attacks when they're using it from like a grounded, principled position that they can defend. Where Peterson, he'll just get mad. He'll literally act on emotion and he'll get mad and he'll attack random individuals, and then he'll regret it and he'll do a big apology video and he'll cry in front of his camera, right? So that's the problem with worshiping someone like Peterson, is you're basically putting your faith behind someone who just kind of doesn't have a leash, and he just kind of just like waddles off, he just wanders off and starts attacking random things upon emotional impulse, because ultimately he's an unprincipled liberal. And that's why you see him making all these stupid like optical mistakes, these big giant PR mistakes with his career. So no, I feel like I have a pretty good position and I have a pretty good definitive stance on this. You have your own opinion. I think you're right in that your position represents how people think about him by and large, but I also think that we need to upgrade. We need to have a better position and we need to be firmer in our convictions, and we shouldn't be super like overwhelmed and impressed by someone like Peterson. We need to be better. That's my mantra in life, is like be better, right? So with that, thank you for your comments. Mr. Watson, was it? Mr. Watson. Logan Watson. Thank you, Logan Watson, for your comment. We'll see everybody in a new video. Take care.